Ukraine has been magnificent. For me, it's been a dream. I've never been to Eastern Europe at all. So Ukraine is my first country in Eastern Europe that I've ever been to. And I have to say I'm hooked. I definitely want to come back. So something that was really clear to me after working with students here is that their technical ability is incredible. So I've worked in several countries all over the world, including the US. So Latin America, Middle East, and Ukrainian students, particularly here at Ukrainian Catholic University, have a high level of technical expertise and creativity in terms of being able to invent tools and products that can be super helpful for people. And for me, it's been great to work with them. I've had a lot of fun, so I like to make sure that learning is also fun. And so I really enjoy being able to be in a classroom where we're having fun together and learning. And that's been my experience here, so it's been wonderful. One, the war has kind of shifted where business opportunities are occurring. So because the center of the invasion is in the East, there's been, I think, an expansion of business activity in the West. People have migrated westward, they have demand and need, and so what it's done is expanded the market for goods here in Lviv and in other Western areas. So one, it's shifted the location of business and entrepreneur opportunities. Other thing that I think this invasion has done in terms of business development and business progress is it's increased the importance of good management in businesses. War is traumatic. And in dealing with that, every human being needs the space and emotional support to work through it. And what that means is, in the workplace, managers who have high emotional intelligence, we call that EQ, becomes even more important. And those that can manage with emotional intelligence are going to be those that get the most out of their employees, the most out of themselves during a period like this. So those are the types of businesses that are going to become better or perform better and survive through the war. I think the other way it's changed business development is how you focus your strategic planning. So during a period of violence and war, if you're a business owner, you have to shift your strategic planning away from long-term, broad-level strategy to operational, short-term, incremental strategic planning. And if you do that, what we've found from research is you're more likely to be a business that can grow and survive periods of conflict. Yeah, no, I think that's a good follow-up question to what we were just talking about. A couple of big challenges. Again, as I hinted at, for business owners, one of the big challenges is going to be incorporating more emotional intelligence in your leadership and management of the people you work with. We've learned so far from the data is labor productivity is down by 68% right now in Ukraine. And that's because trauma is happening, right? We're fearing for our very lives. So in order to get continued support out of the people in your business that you're working with, you need to be very good at supporting them, being there with them, empathizing with them, because it's a tough time. And so the managers who are going to be good at giving that emotional support, being willing to provide a little bit more autonomy around how a person completes tasks, you're going to be able to get continued productivity, right, out of the people you're working with. So that's one challenge and some ideas for managers and business owners and how to work with that. You can do small things like when you have a team meeting, take 3 minutes with your work team and have everybody express gratitude, right? Say 1 or 3 things that they're grateful for. Sounds really simple, and this doesn't maybe sound like business advice or management advice, but research shows that expressing gratitude can reduce the intensity of anxiety and depression by 35%. So it's a simple thing, doesn't take very long, but if you can just introduce something like that into a work meeting, already you're subtly developing ways in the workplace for people to breathe, be a little bit more optimistic, so that we can engage positively in the workplace with each other and try to be a little productive. I think other challenges that businesses are going to face is adaptability, right? The circumstances here on the ground can change hour by hour. So in order to have a business that can adapt that quickly, you want to have a process and business structure that is amenable to that. My advice would be you want to be able to have clear and formal power structure. So make it clear in terms of who's making decisions. And that can be located anywhere in the organization. It just has to be clear to everybody in the organization who has the authority to make decisions. And then you need to have less formal job descriptions, right? Because you want people to feel like they may have to take on responsibilities that are probably outside of their specific domain. And so if you can have those 2 things, then you're going to have a more adaptable organizational structure. And then I would lay on top of that something I mentioned earlier, which is focus on incremental strategic planning, short-term, operational. And if you can do those 2 things, you're going to have a business that's going to be more adaptable to hour-by-hour, day-by-day disruptions and changes. I want to split this into like a 2-part answer, right? Part 1 is how do we demonstrate and let the world know that Ukraine has great talent, has great businesses worth investing in, and that it's a great place to do business. I think, 1, it's important for people in Ukraine to know that the world feels that, and we're feeling it more and more. Meaning, we see the bravery of everybody, everywhere, every day in Ukraine. And seeing that courage and that bravery and that persistence is already communicating to people around the world more than ever before that people in Ukraine are worth working with. And I know sometimes it may not feel that way. I know sometimes being here, you might think that the world going to forget? And I can tell you, at least in the United States, we're not forgetting. We're watching, we're touched, we're here, we're supporting you. And so if anything, that is being communicated. And people who didn't know about talent in Ukraine before know about it now. So I think good news is that's happening. How do we position Ukraine and its people as we win the war to take advantage of that? I think there are a couple of key things. So, 1, you want to focus construction investment in housing, health, education, and infrastructure. And I kind of put it in that order because as we shift from winning the military fight, which we are, to reconstruction, we have to start with what things are top of mind for people to be able to have security and optimism. That is, I have a place to live. If I've got health issues, I've got access to health care. And if I want to try to move ahead economically, I can get the education I need to do it. So we have to make sure that first and foremost, there's investment into housing, health, and education. Once we've got that kind of lined up, I would say next priorities are two things. One, infrastructure investment, right? It's hard to build a dynamic business that's capable of growing, employing people, and going global if you don't have the highways and the airports and the bridges to move goods, or the public transportation so that talent can move to where talent is needed. The last thing I'll mention is you need a dynamic small and medium-sized business sector. And when we talk about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship ecosystems, so much of the conversation is often focused on startups that are scale-up, high-growth tech startups. And that is definitely important, right? If you want to develop a strong, growing, dynamic economy, you need an ecosystem that facilitates scale-up entrepreneurship. That is tech entrepreneurship, that is high growth, fast growth. But the problem is most of the conversation just focuses on that type of entrepreneurship. And if the focus is only on that type of entrepreneurship and supporting scale-up entrepreneurship, it doesn't yield the outcomes that we hope for as a society, which is lots of new jobs created, good paying jobs created, reducing poverty, right? Increasing median income. In order to achieve those things through entrepreneurship, you have to have a scale-deep entrepreneurship ecosystem that complements that scale-up high-tech entrepreneurship ecosystem. You need both. And people always talk about the first, but the second is just as important. And what I mean by scale-deep entrepreneurship is small, medium-sized businesses that are growing and have access to finance and knowledge to grow. Those are the type of businesses, right? That consultancy that employs 10 people, or that software development services company that employs 50 people. Those types of businesses are responsible for 90% of new jobs. And so you need financial institutions that have a level of risk tolerance, that are willing to finance them, right? And you need support for those small, medium-sized business owners in terms of management and administrative support to help them take that financing from financial institutions and put it to work. So that would kind of be my own 6-point plan, right, of what to do to not only help Ukraine bounce back, but have an economy that's stronger and bigger and better than ever.